and welcome to the Knit and Grace podcast. This is episode 14. Hello and welcome back if you are a returning viewer. If you are new here, my name is Mia and I am the maker behind Knit and Grace. And today I bring you the monthly podcast episode, so everything that I've been working on, what I'm currently working on, and what I plan to be working on in the not too distant future. I also have some acquisitions for you all today, which it's been a little bit of time since I've had some acquisitions here on the podcast, and some numbers to update you on. So really exciting stuff. Today I actually only have finished objects. There are no works in progress. So that is a bit exciting. And yeah, a lot of my sort of obligation knitting is over now that Rhinebeck is over, and just really welcoming the settling down of like the slower, I can already feel like the slowness of like the winter as the fall days get shorter and colder. Sort of the winter is just beckoning me to slow down and cozy up and all the things. So yeah, so only finished objects for you today, no whips. I do have some acquisitions. And so I guess I will jump right in with what I'm wearing today, which is my Stick Season by Rebecca Clow, and it is just out, has just been released into the world, and so I'm really excited to be able to wear it here today, and share it with you all. And yeah, so as I'm going through sort of my project, so this is sort of my first finished object, if you will. As I'm going through my project, I'll also insert pictures as I normally do. But again, this is the Stick Season sweater by Rebecca Clow of the Crea Bea, and I knit mine in Primrose Yarn Co. Rowan DK, and so this is a blend of superwash and non-superwash American wool. It's milled local to me here in Pennsylvania, and yeah, and the color is called Wonderlust. And I absolutely love this sweater. I love the fit. I love everything about this pattern. So in terms of the size that I chose to make and all of that, the size I made was the 5th size, which is 48.5 inches, and so this pattern is meant to have between 2 to 5 inches of positive ease. For me, depending on my undergarment, that's going to give me about 2 to 4 inches of positive ease. Maybe a little bit less depending on the undergarments that I'm wearing and if I'm layering any t-shirts or anything like that underneath. Additionally, it features sort of this textured yoke section, and so for the textured yoke, I did get gauge on the recommended US 6 or 4mm needles, and then for the body, I did have to go up to a 4.5mm or US 7. I believe that Rebecca knit hers on 3.5 and 4, so mine were just slightly higher than the gauge that she called for, and therefore I did all of my ribbing on a US 4, which I believe is a 3.5 millimeter needle, and so that was kind of like the difference. It was a 1 millimeter difference between your main needle and your ribbing, and so that's what I chose to do there. Another modification that I made to the pattern was I did insert bust darts, since it is meant to be a cropped pattern, and I did knit it somewhat cropped. It's not full length on me. It's not what I would consider a cropped length on me. It's somewhere in between. And so because I knew that I was going to knit it sort of somewhat cropped, I did want to make sure that I included bust darts to lengthen the front, because I do have quite a large difference between my upper bust and full bust measurements, and that was just going to make sure that I had enough fabric in the front, you know, to be able to tuck into pants, or if I'm wearing them with slacks, so that I didn't feel like I was exposing my belly or anything like that, you know, if I wore this sweater to work or anything like that. Let's see, additional modifications, what else to tell you, needle size, the yarn. I think that's pretty much it. I did shorten the sleeves a bit, just because I am shorter. I'm 4'11" and a half, and so I did shorten them a bit before getting to my ribbing. And then again, I actually knit the body to the length recommended in the pattern, which for me is not a fully cropped sweater, which the pattern is meant to be sort of a boxy cropped top. And so yeah, I absolutely loved the testing process. I loved getting to know Rebecca a little bit more, and we actually got to see each other at Rhinebeck, which just happened a few weeks ago, and so that was a lot of fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed the testing process of this sweater. So the next finished object that I have to share with you is one that you will have already seen if you watched my Rhinebeck outfit making video, and it is the heirloom quilt cardigan. And here she is in all her glory. These are the front panels. Let's see. And then this is the back panel. And so yeah, I'm not going to go into detail in terms of what I did with this sweater. I will link my making journal up above if you want all of the details with regard to sizing and modifications, because I did actually sort of go off script a bit and did a somewhat custom size for this sweater. But this is the Heirloom Quilt Cardigan by Katrin Seeberger, and it was just released this summer, and when I saw it, I knew that I had to knit it up, and I chose to use Nutidin that was in my stash to knit mine up. And it was my Rhinebeck sweater for this year. It was definitely a huge hit, and I am so excited to have finished it, and I have worn it a few times, and I just get so many compliments on it, and I absolutely adore it. So I'm really excited to have this one in my wardrobe. So the next project that I finished for the month, I actually no longer have in my possession, because it was a pair of socks for my friend's partner that I made for him for Rhinebeck weekend so he could match with my husband. And they are the DK Vanilla Socks by the Crazy Sock Lady. And I do have my husband's pair here, which I showed on the podcast in the last month's episode. So they're literally exactly the same pair of socks. It's just simply a difference in shoe size. And so for the socks, I used Knit Picks Swish, Swish DK in the color Garnet Heather, I want to say, and then I used a random DK weight of Barocco Ultra Wool that I had in my stash in a white color. These are my husband's, so there was a little bit of a dye transfer incident because I soaked them with my pink ranunculus, but the socks that I knit for my friend's partner did not have any dye transfer, and they fit him perfectly and he loved them. So that was my next finished object of the month, and they have been gifted. And so I knit those exactly the same way that I knit my husband's, on size 3mm or 2.5 US needle size. And I knit the second size, so it is a pattern that has 3 sizes. I knit the second size, and I knit them to a men's 10.5 foot. And I think that's really all I have to say about the socks. And so the next project that I have, you'll see a theme now. After I finish my sweaters, I've really only been focusing on accessories. And so the next project that I finished for the month is the Grow Hat by Lyrica of Fiber Tales. And this is what that looks like. It is a beautiful, beautiful fitted beanie style, and this is featuring her Grow stitch pattern, which essentially is like these little like wheat stalks. And yeah, I bought yarn. This yarn is Wool Dreamers La Rinconada, and the color is Niebla. And this is the yarn that the pattern calls for. It is a one size pattern, so kind of like one size fits all. And it calls for just one skein of yarn. I forget, I think I used maybe like if it's like 100 grams, I think maybe I use like 60 grams or something like that. I could actually probably look this up so that we're not guessing. Let's see, here we go. Yeah, I use 60 grams out of 100 grams, and I use the needles exactly as called for in the pattern, which is a US 6 or 4mm needle for your main, and US 4 or 3.5mm needle for the ribbing. I didn't gauge swatch or anything like that. I never do for hats. And I got this really beautiful beanie. It does have a folded brim, so you knit the ribbing for quite some time. And there's my little end that I wove in and never snipped off. And yeah, it is a really lovely hat pattern. It came together very quickly and it was very simple. I think this would be a really nice pattern for someone who's wanting to try cabling for the first time. And you know, just is interested in something that's not very complicated. This would be a good sort of like beginner cable pattern, you know, to start with, in terms of like reading charts and all of that. And it came together really nicely. I haven't been able to wear it yet because I've been wearing my hair natural the last couple of weeks, so I'm excited to put this on once I wear my hair straight, which I usually do throughout the winter. I'm probably getting to the point where I will not have natural hair again until the spring. So that was my next finished project for the month. And so the next project that I finished in the month, I'm actually not able to show you because they are a pair of socks that are a secret test knit. However, they will be released in November, so I'll be able to share them in my December podcast episode, so keep an eye out for that. And I just have one last finished object to share with you all, and that is the Badger Creek Mittens by Tin Can Knits. And these were featured in Pom Pom 46, which was the edition that Candace English of the Farmer's Cider Fibers guest edited. And yeah, when I saw these mittens in the magazine, I fell in love with them, and I was like, oh, you know, this would be a great way for me to use up my leftover fisherman's wool from my tendril sweater that I tested for Sophie of the Knit Pearl Girl. And I had about 250 grams left of the yarn. Is that right? No. I had about 250 yards left of the yarn. And so I was like, okay, let's see, does this match? I'm actually pulling up what I used. Yeah, I used 101 yards is what 181 yards or 88 grams is what I ended up using. So I had like maybe like 120 or just, just over 100 grams of yarn left. And I thought that it would be a good way for me to use up the rest of the yarn. And sure enough, I calculated that I had enough yarn for the mittens in my size. And I did actually get to see them in person when we were at Rhinebeck. There was in the book stall, the Pom Pom magazine was all the way toward the end, and I think earlier in the day Candace had been signing the magazine, and so they actually had all of the samples like on a rack, and so I actually got to see them in person, and I was like super excited about them. And so when I finished my socks that I was test knitting, because I knew I needed to finish those and make sure that I got those in before the deadline, I needed something to commute with. And what are mittens if not socks for your hands? So I cast them on actually this past Tuesday night, and I finished them on Thursday evening. So just a quick 2-day project, and they were perfect. Let me pull up and I have the magazine here, and I know that we at this point all know that unfortunately Pom Pom is no longer going to be in business, so I need to go on the site and see what's left so I can purchase some books before they're all gone. But I ended up knitting the 3rd size, which is the adult small. There are 5 sizes, so from toddler to adult large, with varying hand circumferences. And yeah, so in terms of that, again, I knit the 3rd size, and then my only modification was I knit the hand shorter by 1/2 inch. So I knit this portion of the mitten 1/2 inch shorter than the pattern calls for, and that's just because I'm a tiny person, I have tiny hands. So that's that. Let me actually just put them on. And then I did knit the thumb portion exactly as the pattern calls for. So yeah, my only modification was shortening this part by 1/2 inch. And I love how deep down the ribbing on the mitten comes, because I hate when you make mittens and like the ribbing is like right here, and then it's like, then you have like cold wrists all the time. So I love that the mitten ribbing comes pretty much halfway down my forearm. And so that's what the bottom looks like. It's just a stockinette. And then this is a close-up of the cabling pattern. Just really lovely pattern. And yeah, I mean, I don't think you can get better than a pair of mittens that were designed by Tin Can Knits, right? They know all about the mitten game. And so these were my last finished project for the month. Okay, so as I mentioned, there are no whips this month, so I hope that you enjoyed the lovely vlog that I would have just put in here. I didn't get a lot of footage at Rhinebeck, as I talked about in my Rhinebeck recap video, but I did get a lot of footage in nature while we were staying at my sister's house, and I haven't included a nature vlog in one of my episodes in a while, so I thought it would be a good way to beef up the episode a little bit for you all. So I will go ahead and jump straight into my acquisitions for the month. I will say that this is not all of my acquisitions, so if you want to see the Rhinebeck specific acquisitions, you can visit my Rhinebeck recap video, and I have timestamps there and you can see what I purchased at Rhinebeck if you haven't already. But I did get 2 more things in since coming home from Rhinebeck. And so the first thing that I got in is technically a Rhinebeck order. This is one they ordered from Sylvia of Camellia Fiber Co. When she had her post Woolen Folk sale, and she's someone who actually hung out with Sylvia over the weekend, but unfortunately when we got to Woolen Folk, her booth was still not fully set up, you know, because of everything that was going on. And then by the time we got to her booth at the end, I think we were just like tired and like just dead. And I had noted that I had seen this base and I had noted that I wanted it, and so I was able to pick it up when she posted her post Woolen Folk sale. And so this is a new base. It is called Swome Aran, and it is 51% baby alpaca, 9% merino, 40% Pima cotton. It is 190 or 109 yards or 100 meters per 50 grams. It is non-superwash, and it is like a chain net blown yarn. And the color is called Pink Cedar. And so, whoop, it's getting a little blown out, but it's almost, it's not quite a terracotta pink, but it is a little bit lighter than a terracotta pink. Let's see if that, yeah, that looks a little better. So it's a little bit lighter than a terracotta pink, but it is just this lovely, lovely pink. And I picked up 15 hanks of this one. And so I plan on making, I want to say it's the Rauha pullover by Sari Nordland, and that one is sort of an oversized drop shoulder sweater where it's like oversized in the body with a cable down the middle, and it has sort of slim fitting sleeves. So I picked up enough yarn to make myself that one. That one's been in my queue for quite some time, and it's actually one of the patterns that I had on my list to shop for at Rhinebeck that I didn't get to shop for. So it was, you know, sort of kismet, and I was able to pick up the, I think only 15 of that one that Sylvia had in stock. So I was able to pick those up from her shop update. And then the second thing that I just received in the mail, and I was hoping I would get it by the time that I would film the podcast. I am filming this a week ahead of posting it, so it is November 4th today. And so I was hoping that it would get here because it was out for delivery. And it is the new Sari Nordland book, Softly Timeless Knits. And I am so excited. When this book was announced, you know, Sari had been teasing it on her podcast, and I'd been like watching along, and I'm like, when is she going to release this book? When is it going to happen? And then when the pre-orders went out, Mega immediately DM'd me, and she's like, hey, a bunch of us want to order. Do you want in so we can like save a little bit on shipping? And the funny thing is that it ended up making it here while we were at Rhinebeck. Like, I think it was like the Friday or Saturday that we were at Rhinebeck, Mega like sent us all a DM saying like, hey guys, it just got here, you know, like first thing in the morning. And meanwhile we were all at Rhinebeck, so it was pretty funny. So I think it ended up being about the same. I think I did save a little bit on shipping either way, but it was just funny the way that that worked out. But I am so excited for this book. I've already started sort of flipping through the pages, and I've already looked through the patterns, you know, in terms of knowing what patterns are in the book. But I do have a few that I really, really want to make. I mean, the cover pattern, so this one, I believe is called Calliope. Let me see if I can find it in here. Is definitely one that I'm going to be making. Yep, it's called Calliope. And so these are the styling pages. But I'm so excited for this book. The sock patterns, the hat patterns. I mean, what is this knit with? Oh, she's Mayak. Interesting. There's even a pullover. There are two just very basic pullovers in here with like no texture detail or lace or anything like that, but just the fit of them just looks absolutely stunning. Here, Apollonius is one of them. And like, again, it's just a plain pullover, but it's just like the fit just looks amazing. And I just love all of Sari's patterns. You know, the cabling, and this is the other one. This one's called Cleo. Is there this is again, like this is a plain, I don't want to show but this is a plain drop shoulder one. But yeah, I'm just really looking forward to diving into this book and making some patterns and seeing what I have in my stash. The publishing on this is just absolutely delicious. This is like, you know, the binding is just really, really great. The paper is nice and thick. I mean, they did a really great job publishing this. It's really exciting. And I'm very excited to have my own copy. Okay, so it's about time to wrap up this video. As I mentioned, now that all of kind of the knitting responsibilities are over, or I guess like the big knitting event of the year is over, I'm actually really excited to just slow down and really think through, you know, sort of what I've knit so far this year, what I still want to knit, you know, and what like gaps I have in my wardrobe. We also have confirmed that we will be moving a lot sooner than we thought, so we'll actually be terminating our lease early and we'll be moving into February. So the winter is going to be a little manic for me from that regard, and so my knitting will probably slow down quite a bit. I do have one test knit that I signed up for though, because, you know, I wouldn't be me if I didn't. And so I will be testing the directional pullover for Amy Scher. This is my first test for them and I'm really excited. As you all know, this is not my first time knitting one of their patterns, but I am super excited to be able to test this one. And so I will actually be making mine in a single color as opposed to the color work that is featured in the pattern. And so I'm excited to have something to, you know, that's simple and that I know is going to be a timeless classic piece in my wardrobe that I can add. And you know, Amy runs their tests just very much like a knit along. You know, everything is super incredibly tech edited and pretty much you're getting a final product, and it's just really, you know, making sure that things are fitting correctly and making sure that there's representation across all of the sizes. So I'm really excited to test knit this pattern. And yeah, that's really the only thing that I have, you know, really that I've thought about. I've been thinking about some other things in terms of what I want to get into with my yarn, and I haven't really felt too much inspiration so far. So we'll see what happens once the next podcast episode comes along. And now I can update you on my year-to-date numbers. Y'all are going to be shocked, okay? Y'all are going to be shocked is all I have to say. So yeah, so I have my numbers here in front of me so I can read them for you all. So my November numbers, and actually, one second, I think that I need to recalculate this. Okay, so the totals for the month of November. So in terms of yarn in, and so this category includes any yarn that I've purchased as well as any yarn that I have destashed. So I did manage to destash some yarn while I was away at Rhinebeck, which is always nice. So in terms of grams in, it's 1650 grams, so 1,650 grams of yarn, and that equaled 3,373 yards of yarn. In terms of yarn out, that is going to be 1333 or 1,333 grams, and the yardage is 4,730 yards of yarn out. So that is all of the yarn that was knit up this month. And I should say I only count my yarn out in the month that I finished the project. So I didn't actually knit 4,000 yards worth of yarn in 1 month. That is pretty insane. Although I'm sure I could do it if I really wanted to. Not that I would, I don't think. So that brings my totals for the month. It is a little weird because, again, sometimes I'm knitting with fingering weight, sometimes I'm knitting with like different weights, so the weight and yardage doesn't always match. So I actually have a positive increase of grams in, but a negative in the yardage category, which is the one that really matters. So it is a positive 317 grams of yarn into my stash. However, in terms of yardage, I am in the negative by 1,357 yards. So I did come out in the negative for the month. And then for the year, again, this is where the numbers get a little crazy, but total yarn in is 9,129 grams or 30,281 yards. That is a lot. And in terms of yarn out, so again, this is yarn that's been knit up, it's 8,653 grams or 31,778 yards. And that brings me to a total for the year. I'm not going to count the positive in terms of the weight because I am negative in terms of the yardage. And so that is a negative 1,496 yards for the year. So I am so excited, y'all. I am going to be negative for the year. I can definitely say it. In terms of acquisitions that are coming later in the year, I do have my Advent that's coming from Sweet Sparrow Yarns, and so that will get here sometime in the next week or two, I want to say probably, but that's going to be knit up in December, so that is going to be a net 0 in my stash. And then I may get a festive box from Eula of Wool and Twine again if she does them, or her next sock box maybe. But in terms of yarn purchasing, I don't plan on purchasing any more yarn other than those 2 things for the rest of the year, although don't hold me to it. So if I do stick to my goal of not purchasing any more yarn other than those 2 things that I know I kind of want to do, then I will 100% be negative for the year, and we will actually be attempting a full-on no buy for 2024. with conditions, of course, because if you have watched my Rhinebeck recap video, you know that I am attending a couple fiber festivals next year. But I will be doing a no-buy in 2024. So this is super, super exciting stuff. I'm really excited by these numbers. I definitely freaked out a little bit, you know, midway through the year when I was just like, oh my God, I have brought way too much yarn in. I'm supposed to be using up this yarn. And yeah, I'm happy that I stuck to my no buy through the whole summer and I didn't really feel like I was missing anything. I actually thought that I might go on a little bit of like a bender at Rhinebeck and just buy tons of yarn since I hadn't bought any in so long, and I honestly didn't. I didn't feel the need to just buy tons of yarn, and so I think that I've gotten to the point where I'm very happy with my stash. I'm happy with what I have, and I'm happy with the projects that I want to knit up in the near future. So I'm really loving this for myself. So I'm really excited. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast episode. I will have one more video up for this month, probably like the last week of the month. I'm not sure yet what it's going to be. So just look out for that one. And then as always, you know, if you like these videos, be sure to give it a like. If you are returning and you have not subscribed yet, please do consider subscribing and hitting that bell button so that you're notified every single time I post a video. It really, really does help me out. I've had quite a bit of engagement over the last couple of weeks, and I've definitely seen a growth in the numbers. So it really helps other people get to see my content if you also enjoy it in any way. And yeah, I hope that you are staying safe and you are well wherever you are. You're enjoying sort of the slowing down of the year and the seasons if you're in the northern hemisphere, and the speeding up if you're in the southern hemisphere as you're heading into spring and summer. And wherever you are, I hope that you're taking care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.